The grand ballroom of the Imperial Grand Hotel sparkled under crystal chandeliers. Wealthy business owners, celebrities, and socialites filled the room, laughing and talking while waiters moved between tables carrying silver trays. It was the city's most prestigious charity gala, and receiving an invitation to this event was considered an honor. Near the entrance, a young woman stepped inside quietly. She wore a simple blue dress and flat black shoes. Her hair was tied neatly, and she carried a small handbag that looked old compared to the designer purses around her. She paused for a moment and looked around the hall. Immediately, several people noticed her. A group of young businesswomen sitting near the center table exchanged glances. One of them frowned and whispered, "Who called her here?" Another woman looked at Emily from head to toe and laughed. "She looks like she came to apply for a job." The others burst into laughter. Their voices were loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Emily heard them too. For a second, she looked at them and then lowered her eyes. Instead of reacting, she simply walked toward an empty seat near the back of the hall. The women continued laughing. One of them said, "I swear, every year this event becomes less exclusive." A man sitting beside them chuckled and nodded. "Maybe she's someone's assistant." Emily sat quietly, folded her hands, and waited for the event to begin. A few minutes later, the lights dimmed. The host walked onto the stage and smiled warmly. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us tonight. This annual charity gala has helped thousands of children receive education and medical care." The audience applauded politely. The host continued speaking about the evening's program and then paused. A smile appeared on his face. "Before we begin, I would like to recognize someone very special." Everyone looked toward the stage. Tonight's event would not have been possible without the support of one extraordinary person. The audience listened with curiosity. This person has changed countless lives but never asked for recognition. She prefers to stay away from attention and often works quietly behind the scenes. People began looking around, wondering who it might be. Then the host looked toward the back of the hall. "Miss Emily Carter, would you please join me on the stage?" A spotlight immediately moved across the ballroom and stopped on the young woman in the simple blue dress. The entire room froze. The group that had laughed at her stared in disbelief. Emily looked surprised for a moment and then slowly stood up. The host smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of the Bright Future Foundation." Silence filled the room. The host continued. 5 years ago, Miss Emily Carter started teaching poor children in a tiny rented room because she believed education should belong to everyone. Today, her organization has built schools in several towns and provides free education to thousands of children. People looked at one another in shock. The host smiled again. Over the last 3 years, she has donated millions of dollars to hospitals, schools, and orphanages. No one moved. The woman who had asked, "Who called her here?" looked as though she could not breathe. Then the host said something that shocked everyone even more. "And there is one more thing. Miss Emily Carter is also the anonymous donor who funded tonight's entire charity gala." A gasp spread through the ballroom. The event they were enjoying existed because of the young woman they had mocked only minutes earlier. Emily walked calmly toward the stage. As she passed the group, nobody could even look at her. Their faces were filled with embarrassment. The host handed her a microphone. The room remained completely silent. Emily looked at the audience and smiled gently. "Thank you for your kindness and for supporting this cause tonight." Her voice was soft and calm. "I grew up in a small apartment with my parents. We did not have much money. There were days when we worried about paying our bills. But my parents taught me something I will never forget. They said a person's value is never measured by clothes, jewelry, or money. It is measured by the kindness they show others." The room became even quieter. Emily continued. "I know what it feels like to be judged because of appearances. I know what it feels like when people think you are unimportant. That is why I promised myself that if I ever succeeded, I would help people who are often ignored. Many guests lowered their eyes. Some looked emotional. Emily smiled softly. I believe every child deserves hope and every human being deserves respect. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then someone started clapping. Another person joined. Soon the entire ballroom stood on its feet and applauded loudly. The applause continued for a long time. The group that had laughed at Emily remained standing in silence, their faces red with shame. They had spent the evening judging a stranger because of her simple appearance, only to discover that she was the most generous and respected person in the room. That night, everyone learned the same lesson: never underestimate someone because of the clothes they wear or the way they look. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the reason the lights are shining at all.